Welcome to Sports Extra. I'm your host, Ali Gohar. Today we're going to tackle a couple of topics, and as usual, we'll begin with cricket, and we'll start off with the second ODI at Canberra between Australia and New Zealand. And once again, Australia beat the Kiwis quite comfortably. They'll be very satisfied with this series win. With the Aussies, because remember, they lost the one-day series against the South Africans. They were looking all out. They were looking completely out of sorts in the Test series, but now they've bounced back strongly. They won the third Test match against the South Africans, and now they've completed a series win against New Zealand. David Warner has been in magnificent form. He scored a magnificent 100 in very quick time. Then came Stephen Smith, the captain, who made a brilliant 70. Remember, in the first ODI, he made 160-odd. Then you had the young man, Travis Head, who's just come into the Australian side, the left-hander. He's a very powerful striker of the ball. He made a half-century. And then Sean Marsh made a magnificent half-century. In fact, he made 70 of 46 deliveries. And then when the Australians came out to bowl, the New Zealanders, they got off to a decent start. I thought Guptill played quite well, and then Kane Williamson and Jimmy Neesham were making a fist of it, but they were always behind the 8 ball. And once the Australians broke that partnership between Williamson and Neesham, New Zealand weren't even going to get close to Australia's target. So we'll talk about what we saw today at Canberra in great detail. Then we'll move on and we'll briefly talk about Pakistan's upcoming tour of Australia. Remember, Pakistan haven't won a Test match in Australia since 1995. The last time they won was in Sydney, courtesy Mushtaq Ahmed and Waqar Younis. But since then, they haven't been able to win anything. So the Pakistanis will be under a lot of pressure against a very hungry Australian side. It's not going to be easy for them at all. So after we talk about cricket, we'll be speaking to the CEO of a sports management company. It's called Strawberry Sports Management, and he's seeking to bring sports in Pakistan to the fore, particularly sports on the periphery like wrestling, kabaddi, and hockey, and other sports as well. And to talk about this in greater detail, to talk about cricket in greater detail, I've been joined by two guests in the studio. I have with me Colonel Noushad. Colonel Noushad, sahab, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam, Ali.
And we also have Syed Mohammed Owais. Assalamu alaikum, great to see you.
Wa alaikum assalam, Ali. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Colonel Noushad Ali, Australia have been under the pump. Yeah. They lost against the South Africans when they were in South Africa, one-day series. They lost the Test series, but in the third one they came back strongly, and you could tell they were hurting. So they gave the South Africans a good beating, and I think they really needed that. And they carried that confidence of the third Test match victory into this one-day series. And it's the same old Australia now, and they gave the New Zealanders quite a very strong New Zealand side, mind you, quite a fearful battering.
What does it indicate? Indicate that Australians, which are down about a few months back, they were in the process of rebuilding. They were in the process of bringing youngsters. And they brought so many youngsters, like 5 or 6 new players coming into the team. They lost quite a few matches in the beginning, but now they're gradually coming up. And the indications are right, as you said. They won the Test match. They won these first two ODIs. And then their young guns, they are doing well. So Australians are coming up. There was a time when the Australians had teams like the people used to talk about that if you have 3 Australian teams, they could be number 1, number 2, number 3 teams in the world. Probably that is the process Australians deserve to have. And now with the way the infrastructure is, the way they are working on it, the way they have changed certain selectors and certain other management icons, I think they are coming up well, and probably they are trying to get the same place which you had to have in the past.
Just to pick up on another point, Colonel Noushad, before I get to West, Australia seemed to bounce back very well when they're in trouble, and when people don't really give them a chance. They seem to come out of it. Cast your mind back to 1987. Nobody thought they'd win the World Cup, but they went on to win it. They beat Pakistan in the semi-final, and then England in the final in 99. They were almost out of it, but then Steve Waugh made a magnificent 100 against South Africa, and then they took off from there. And now recently they lost in Sri Lanka, they lost to the South Africans twice, and now you can tell after winning the third Test match, day-night Test match at Adelaide, they're going up now.
Yes, they are certainly. Graph is indicating the same what you were talking about. And I'm pretty sure that the infrastructure with the Australians they haven't got much of experimentation on that. That's working very well, like Sheffield Shield and their other ODI system. I'm pretty sure that they will bounce back, not only bounce back now, but they will have few more glaring example of winning the world titles in near future.
A lot of dynamism in this Australian side of us, and there's a lot of flexibility, great bench strength too. They don't play the same team all the time. They've got a number of players who are exceptionally gifted at playing one-day cricket. David Warner is amazing in all three formats. He's a powerhouse. Then you've got Travis Head, who played very well in Big Bash. He bats the middle order now. He hit a long ball. And then Marsh, who was absolutely brilliant today. So this is a very, very powerful Australian side.
See, the main thing over here is like that you need to have a strong bench lineup, and especially the strong domestic cricket coming up, the Sheffield cricket over there just going on, because you got plenty of cricketers who are capable of performing. Because if I'm not wrong, they give an example, who plays the Shield cricket back in Australia, he almost reaches to the Australian international level. So they have a strong bench lineup coming up, because they haven't got any problems over here. They just lost completely badly to South Africa. Everyone was criticizing Australia that they might not be as powerful against Pakistan. But the way they just stepped up over here against New Zealand, that shows they're still capable of doing that. Because Australia, remember one thing, they don't give the match easily on. They fight till the end. And the main thing what we love Australia is that they bounce back strongly. And it's a really alarming situation for Pakistan, because Pakistan cricket team will have to work over here, because the way Australians have defeated New Zealand over here, their morals are totally high on. They would be strong enough to beat Pakistan.
Well, I think, can I take it further, what he said? I mean, he has picked up a very good point that it's alarming bells for Pakistan. Now, Pakistan is going to play a 3 test match series, the ODI, the T20, all against these Australians who are bouncing back, who are showing their form. So what Pakistan has to do, a lot of hard work and a lot of determination if they want to have
I'm not trying to bring
with
down Pakistan here. They've been brilliant in test match cricket. But the fact is, even if Australia weren't in the greatest form, they're still not in great form. You can't say they're in great form. I still think they're firm favourites against Pakistan. Pakistan haven't won anything since 1995 over there, and they haven't done well in one-day cricket either. I mean, they won the World Cup there, the big World Cup in '92. They won the Carlton United series in '96, but after that, they haven't done well. So I think the alarm bells would have been on regardless.
I'll compare it like this. I mean, what Pakistan have been playing in New Zealand. What used to be in New Zealand for the batsmen, it used to be seaming pitches. It used to be moving in the ball, in the air and off the pitch. But in Australia, Pakistan will be little comfort in playing their shots, pull and cut shots. Why? Because in Australia, the ball bounces. It gives little more time for the batsman to concentrate on these shots. I think Pakistan will be feel little more easier in Australia than in New Zealand. So Pakistan does have a chance against Australia, provided they have their best performance, and then the player play with a sort of determination on that.
Right. Let's talk about some of Australian players here. Let's start with their batsman, David Warner. Owais, it's strange to see a player who was originally a batsman, who was originally a T20 player, come into then later come into Test match cricket, do so well. He's a brilliant one-day player, as we saw in this innings. It's quite strange to see that, because remember, first he was a powerful, dynamic T20 player, and then he developed himself into an aggressive Test match batsman, and now in 50-over cricket, he's still unstoppable. So, for me, I don't know about you, but he reminds me of a left-handed Michael Slater. I think he is someone who will go down as one of the greats, almost as good as Haider, I think.
Ali, if I'm not wrong, what a team requires from the opener is that he needs to be a role model like what Warner has been doing for Australia, because you need to be a powerful hitter too, and you need to at least stand over the score runs for the team, and definitely build up partnerships. And that's the main thing, because like I just mentioned once, that Wayward Richard even had a statement saying in Pakistan-West Indies series that you need to at least have the opening especially needs to attack the fast bowlers or any bowler over here to spoil his line length, and just give a blow for the other batsman coming up. So that's a plus point for Australia, because you got strong power hitting Finch, Warner, Warner especially, who's in a brilliant form over here, who's performing in the 3 formats for Australia. That's a plus point for Australia having on.
Colonel Noushad, I can't remember when David Warner was out of form, and I know he's an aggressive player, and he bats. Why I think he's so successful is because he's always looking to score runs. He bats with intent. And what's more, I think he's also very comfortable. He's ambidextrous, which is why he's a lot more compact than most other left-handed players we've seen. Because, left-handers have this, terrible habit of playing wide, away from their body outside their off stump. Sangakkara and David Warner and even Chanderpaul don't really have that problem because they're ambidextrous.
Well, I'll say that with the passage of time, initially, as you rightly said, when the David Warner came in, he was labeled as a T20 player. But he not only developed as an ODI player, but a Test match player. What he had learned in this time, that he has to be a little more selective on the shots, and he is doing it rightly. Today I saw them. He playing just in front of the page, the fast bowler straight over the head with the full power, just a flow of the bat, and then ball crossing over the line.
Pocket-sized dynamo, really. He's a little guy, but he's built. But he also moves like a ballet dancer, very quick on his feet, very quick on his feet.
Absolutely, absolutely, you are right. I mean, he is the one who is a little difficult at least for the seam bowlers.
Right. I want to talk about Mitchell Marsh and his power hitting. Australia seem to have a lot of those. They've got Travis Head, who also can hit a long ball. Maxwell isn't playing, but he's a tremendous striker. James Faulkner down the order is also a beautiful ball striker. And then Mitchell Marsh. I thought the innings he played today was wonderful.
See, you require something from a genuine all-rounder, because he's kind of a batsman. He can build up innings too, and he can go for above the boundaries too, and that's the main plus point what you require in the team at the number 6 or 7, 5 position, and he's fulfilling that. Unfortunately, we don't have the same thing in the Pakistan team over here. Australia, the main thing early is that they got a strong depth lineup to Faulkner, then even Stark can bat on, they can even build a 50 runs partnership. That's the plus point what a team likes over here, because it's just not depending on 4 to 5 players. You at least need some 30, 40 or 50 runs from down the order too, and that's what Australia have been doing on.
There's certainly lots of variety in this Australian side, and their captain, Stephen Smith, he was under a lot of pressure, but then he came out in the first ODI, made a magnificent century, 160 odd runs. He's so strong on the onside, isn't he, Colonel Noushad? It's marvellous to see him whip the ball off his pads. Well, he's not really your typical Australian player, is he? But still wonderful to watch.
Yeah, he's got a defense as well. I mean, he concentrated. You remember Javed Mehrdad, he used to play in the gaps. And then when the time comes, he used to lift the ball as well.
But he had a peculiar stance as well. Yeah.
He's got the same thing. I mean, he's so quick on picking up the gaps that he probably before the bowler bowls, and he watches it so early that it's easy for him to place the ball in the gaps.
Yeah. Australia's bowlers now. Mitchell Stark is, we know how good he is, and how quick he is, and how skillful he is. Pat Cummins is coming back from injury, and he picked up 4 wickets today, 4 for 41. And it's good to see that he's still bowling fast, and you can tell the guys are looking to help him out as much as possible. When he took the first wicket of Guptill, Stephen Smith from slip, the captain was telling him to bowl cross seam. Why? Because he wanted the ball to skid off the wicket, and Guptill was playing very well. And he ended up bowling a cross seam delivery, and it was an absolute cracker.
See, one thing what I loved about was that, if I'm not wrong, see, what I have been discussing is that what I see is that Mitchell Stark had a lot of burden after Mitchell Johnson over here, because Pat Cummins he's a very good fast bowler. You got Faulkner too, but they were injured, I mean, and just coming back from the injury and performing so well, that's a brilliant point over here, because at least the pressure just eases up from the other fast bowler over here, and he has done that superbly. And especially your captain applauding you over here by saying that just ball with a cross delivery, because see, a fast bowler on the one end like Mitchell Stark is, he has been taking wickets, but still I see that there's a lot of burden on him. They need to at least have someone on the other hand who can at least help him up, like Mitchell Johnson used to do on, because they both were furious at once when they were playing against England.
I mean, in one-day cricket at least, I don't think Stark is burdened. I think he's
not in the one-day cricket. I'm talking about
not in the one-day cricket. But to be honest, Wes, even in Test cricket, Hazelwood is a really good bowler. He's young and he's performed.
I think Hazelwood is a little more yards as compared to the Mitchell Stark.
No, he's not as quick, but he complements him well. Yes, he'll have a bad game every now and then. But I think in Hazelwood, in Test cricket, he's got good enough support. And don't underestimate Siddle either.
I think if you just summarize the Australian pace attack, considering the pitches of Australia, particularly at Perth and of course Brisbane, it's an attack which any captain like to have in his armory.
Yeah, absolutely. Back to their one-day bowling attack, what we saw today, it's good to see Pat Cummins still bowling at 150 clicks. He was very difficult to get away today. He was bowling at perfect length. Stark, we know how good he is. But again, there's so much variety. Faulkner comes in with his, little slower deliveries. He's very difficult to pick up. Mitchell Marsh. And then they've got so many players on the bench and some players playing domestic cricket. Bowlers I'm talking about. They've got Kane Richardson. They've got some guy with a beard as well called Remington.
Yeah,
so
he played for Australia.
Yeah. Ben Cutting is there. So there's a lot to choose from.
Ali, that's the plus point over here, because you need to have a strong bench line, then you need to have a strong domestic structure over there, because once one player, because Australia has been suffering from the injury department. If one is injured on, you can just pick from the non-playing 11 squad, or you can just pick up from the Shield cricket, and that's the thing what they have over here. They're grooming cricketers for the Australian team. Unfortunately, we don't have the same thing over here. You need to groom up players, because it's just not that Stark would continue for Australia in 10 years. It might be because Stark might struggle from some injury. They should have at least a backup of Stark who can be the same Stark or Mitchell Johnson for Australia.
Yeah, and when Stark is coming in around the wicket, angling the ball in, I mean, you can't score 10 to 11 runs and over against that kind of bowling.
Then he hitting the deck full on your ribs all the time.
No, it's not
But
easy.
Now, you talk of Usman Khaja, yeah.
Everyone has one statement. It's just, I think, so off the topic of it, that Sharjeel Khan versus Stark would be a good battle over here, because Sharjeel Khan is quite strong against short pitch deliveries, but still I would say on the ball which just angles in, Sharjeel Khan might struggle over there.
Well,
Yeah, I think Sharjeel has got a weak point there when you bowl on the ribs or bowl a little high on his elbow as well.
Right.
But I think Pakistan should open with Sharjeel Khan, at least in the ODIs and the T20s.
Before we get to the Pakistanis, a bit about New Zealand. They're bowling. Look, on paper, they've got a good bowling attack. They've got Bolt, who didn't do too well today. They've got Saudi. Henry's still pitching the ball too short. So on paper, they're good. But you think they're suffering from fatigue?
I think they're
have they been overwhelmed by the Australians and their batting lineup? What do you think it is?
That could be one reason, but I think that they've been playing a lot of cricket in the recent past, you see. They've not only played Pakistan, before Pakistan they played the Indians, then they toured abroad as well, and now they have come straight away after finishing with Pakistan on the Australia.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Satner's even coming back from injury. So yeah, I guess
Because
one shouldn't be too harsh on
two
them.
key fast bowlers of Australia. I mean, both of them got hammered more than 60 runs. I mean, one was hammered for 60, if I'm not wrong. Bolt, another one for 80 or 90 runs. So that shows they might be struggling about the fatigue or something. They need to at least give some rest, because it's just not that Australia series coming up. You got many series, and especially the ICC Champions Trophy coming up next year.
You know what it is as well, Colonel Noushad? I mean, in your time, I remember scoring runs in Australia wasn't easy. The pitches were a little more difficult and the boundaries were a lot bigger. Now, 350 is becoming the norm there. It's like playing in India. So I think, I don't know about you, but I don't like it. I love watching, I used to love watching cricket in Australia because it was competitive and the batsmen found it difficult to score runs. So I don't know about you, but I think maybe something needs to be looked at. There are too many 350 plus scores taking place in Australia now.
The one reason could be that there is so much innovation in the batting that all sort of shots are played now. They are part and parcel of the batting plan. Look at some of the players. They play the shot. If somebody sees about 20 years back that shot, they say he's.
No, and plus, it helps when the bats are so big.
Yeah.
And they're two new balls, so the ball is coming onto the bat almost throughout. Changes need to be made.
Their push is like playing over the head. Because you rightly said the meat of the bat is so very heavy that the ball touches, and then it's very easy for the batsman to play the shots. And then their outfields are pretty fast now.
Colonel Noushad, tell me. What would happen if Greenwich and Viv batted with these bats? What do you think would happen?
Well, I think they will try.
I'm sure.
Those two will try. Certainly they will try. They won't give up like that. No. But it should be a good contest between the ball and the bat.
Right. Now, let's move on now to Pakistan's upcoming tour of Australia. Like I said in my introduction, it ain't going to be easy for the Pakistanis. They lost in New Zealand, so their morale will be down, and the Australians are hungry. They didn't like the fact that they lost the series to the South Africans. They've got a decent batting lineup, although their middle order, I feel, is still quite fragile. They've got some new guys in there like Hanscom, Maddinson. They've got a new opener in Renshaw. So maybe the Pakistanis can exploit their middle order early on in the piece. Owais, like I said, like many people are saying, really, I mean, this is not the strongest Australian side Pakistan have come up against. In 95, they were very strong. In 99, they were formidable. In 2004, they were even more formidable. So one might suggest, yes, if you get through Australia's top three, if you get through Warner, Khwaja and Smith, then you've got a chance.
Clearly, you don't have the. It is that Australia definitely it's their home condition and they have performed superbly against Pakistan. But still, I would say on the Pakistan fast bowlers might dominate over there, but they need to bowl with the accurate line length over there. But still, if Pakistan get rid of this 2 to 3, 4 early batsmen, especially Usman Khwaja, David Warner, you said on, and Smith, they're one of the key batsmen for Australia because Australia in the test order, the middle order does not look more fragile what we had back in when Ricky Ponting was there, Michael Clarke used to be there, whom you could rely on. That's not the same thing with Australia over here, but still the Pakistan fast bowlers will have to work over here. The weaknesses of Australia because the way David Warner just slashes the ball, he just tries to put pressure on. They would definitely try to put pressure on Amir, especially over here. They need to at least work hard over here.
Before we talk about Yasir Shah and what's going on, we talk a lot about Pakistan's batting and bowling. Colonel Noushad, we've lost in Australia and we've also lost in England in the past because our slips cordon is very weak. You need to be able to hold on to your catches. David Warner, Usman Khwaja, they're not going to give you second chances. It ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
So our slips cordon, Steve Rickson, the fielding coach, I think Azhar Mahmood is there as well.
He's a bowling coach.
Yeah, he's the bowling coach. He used to be a very good slip fielder. People talk about Inzamam. I think Azhar Mahmood was a good slip fielder. They need to help these guys out because you're not going to win the series if you don't hold on to your catches. It's just not going to happen.
We recently went to England and Babar, he was our captain.
You're talking about the A side, yes.
Yeah. Would you believe it? He was very, very safe fielder in the first slip and the second slip. What I'm trying to say that why can't Pakistan try a little change in the slip pattern? I mean, all the time having Yunus Khan.
Sami Aslam. Well, Sami Aslam has just come in. Yeah.
Sami Aslam for Yunus Khan and somebody else as well. Why not to try Babar in the slips? He's been always fielding in the covers or point or in the deep. He is a brilliant fielder. His eyes so quick that he watches the bat all the time and he moves along with the ball.
For Pakistan A, where was he fielding? First or second?
First slip as a captain.
And he was safe.
And when he used to be a spinner, he used to be in mid-on or mid-off.
Okay, so you're saying he's a safe
slip fielder, yeah.
Okay.
Because if you just watch out, Colonel Sahib, if I'm not wrong, because Azhar Ali does stand in the fielding, I mean the slip fielding area, and I don't rate him as a good slip fielder, but still I would say like you can at least make some changes because Pakistan, it's just not about Muhammad Amir. I would say on many of your catches were dropped of the slip fielders, and especially your fielding needs to be strong in Australia too because many of your catches have been dropped of the fast bowlers. If you definitely drop off the catches, what can a fast bowler do on? He's coming with his full heart over here and you just drop off his catches, definitely it's going to be hurting him. You need to at least give 100% in the fielding too.
I think Azhar Ali should come out of the slip pattern. I mean, as you said rightly, some of the players have put on some weight. Azhar Ali is one of those who looks to be a little on the heavier side. He should come out and he should field in the outer corner, or he should field near the boundary line, or even in the covers. That will give us a chance to somebody else like a Babar Azam or few other youngsters to come and slip in the field.
You're not really spoiled for choice though. I mean, you don't. Who else would you? Because see, Yunus Khan has been there for ages. But we forget.
But Yunus
he's
Khan
39 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, he's still a good enough fielder, but I don't know. Like you can't always rely on him to hold on. You can't rely on him to hold on to everything. Misbah is 42. They're only human beings. Like the reflexes do go when you reach a certain age.
I know that Yunus Khan has been fielding in the slips for ages, that's right. But rightly you said that age is coming up with him. So same goes to Misbah Ulaq. But as long as they are there, you have to put them somewhere. and that's the safest position for these two who are aging at the moment, is the slip cordon or the gully, or maybe leg slip. That could be the position for them.
Before I forget, because we're running out of time, you wanted to mention something about Yasir Shah, then Owais can pick up on that.
Ali, I have a feeling that Australians, although they are coming up very well, they are doing very well, but still they have to do a lot of work on playing the right arm leg spin. Right arm leg spin has always been difficult for them, although they have produced some very good right arm leg spinners. But certainly Yasir Shah should be a difficult bowler for Australians in all versions of the game, whether T20 or it is 50-50 or other test match. So a lot depends how Yasir Shah performs in the initial match. Although the news is that he is not playing in the first practice match, but he should certainly be part of the Pakistan team on the test match, which is going to be from the 15th onwards.
Owais, final thoughts?
Because see, I mean, Ali, I always say that, see, what you had Syed was a history too, but he was kind of a bowler whom you could rely on him in any kind of condition. I mean, even in the overseas, Australia, South Africa, wherever it was, Yasir Shah needs to understand his role over here. He's one of the key bowlers in the spin department. Because I sometimes get afraid that I don't want him to be named as just the Asian bowler in the international cricket. He needs to understand his responsibility. He needs to control himself, because like Shane Warne has been complaining, he's one of the best bowlers, Yasir Shah, but still he just tries to experiment a lot. He needs to focus on one thing. You have got so many people, Shane Warne, Abdul Qadir, you need to at least get the guideline over here.
Absolutely. Well, we have to leave it at that. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
We'll be back after a short break. When we come back, we'll be talking about sports management in Pakistan. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Now I'm going to be speaking to Mr. Haider Ali, who's the CEO of a sports management company called Strawberry Sports Management. And his main goal, his core goal, is to bring sports and promote sports and to make it a part of people's lives. I mean, many people say that Pakistan is a sports crazy country, but let's face it, now we're just cricket crazy. A number of sports, in fact, almost every other sport except cricket is on the periphery, like hockey, which is our national sport, and we used to be amazing at hockey. We won so many trophies, so much silverware in hockey that it's just so unfortunate the way things have gone down. And other sports like kabaddi, volleyball, and what have you, they barely even get a look in. So it's very important that we look to promote sports on the periphery as much as possible. And that's exactly what the CEO of Strawberry Sports Management, Haider Ali, is trying to do. Haider Ali, great to have you on.
Thank you so much.
Before we talk about what you're doing, and specifically what you're doing, trying to promote these sports, why did you decide to get into this?
Actually, Ali, first of all, thanks for having me on your show. The first thing that really touched my heart in terms of sports was I was a kid. I was afforded the opportunity. I hail from a family where I was afforded this opportunity of having great sporting facilities. So right from the word go, I was introduced to different games. Then I joined Cadet College Hassan Abdal, where you're also exposed to a lot of different sports.
Right.
And then I came to the corporate sector and then got into the run of the mill, but the sports never left me. And when I looked at the way you have introduced, I think we as a nation, as Pakistan, offer so much to the sport. And I have seen those times when we had different sports like hockey, like snooker, and many other games came to the fore. And they were a moment of pride for the entire nation. So that there was that time when I thought that this is the time that we should take this thing forward professionally and bring out to the fore what really is important for the country, is that bringing the sportsman spirit in the form of different sports. So that was the time when I decided that we should professionally take it on.
I mean, there are a number of things that one can work on within this field, but I mean, we were talking a little bit about this off air, and you said what you want to do, one of the many things you're trying to do, is trying to bring sports back into people's lives.
Yeah.
That's also very important.
That's very important. I'll just give you a couple of, if you consider just two separate frames. These are just very small stories. If you consider a game which is played in 35 countries, which has a history which goes back to prehistoric times, It is played by so many nations and has an on-sport viewership which is much more than cricket. Park it somewhere, this is just one frame. The other frame is a story about a small boy who was like 11 years old. He lives in a small village in Punjab, and his father asks him to give him a lending hand in terms of whatever he's doing in terms of farming and stuff. And he agrees to that on the basis that he also carries on with that particular sport that he was so excited about. Take 15 years forward. This is a guy who is revered in all of these 35 countries, goes out and plays different leagues. The name of this guy is Shafiq Ahmed Chishti. He is the national captain of the team. Do we, Ali, as people in urban centers and metropoles, even know his name? The answer is no. And the game I'm referring to is kabaddi. So these are the kind of things that really were the instigator behind these living legends to the fore.
Look, I'll be honest with you. I do a sports show, and I know cricket like the back of my hand. I'm not gonna lie. Other sports like kabaddi, for example, I just learned the rules of kabaddi. I'm just telling you the truth. Yeah,
Sure.
I know, and of course, football, English Premier League football, La Liga football, I think is more popular among certain segments of society, especially in the cities, than kabaddi, or even hockey, which is our national sport. Which is why it's so important that people like you come to the fore and try to promote this as much as possible.
I totally agree with you, Ali. I couldn't agree with you more, because I think what I see all around me is just the nation being crazy about one sport at the time. Our experience, the empirical evidence from across the border tells us that the viewership of a particular sport or multiple sports is not a zero-sum game. So if we consider IPL, the rise of IPL, as the IPL grew, you had the Pro Kabaddi League coming in, but the numbers of Pro Kabaddi League are phenomenally growing. Has it affected IPL? No, it has not. So the answer is that the nation is starved of lots of entertainment, it's starved of quality entertainment, and sports offers that. Sports is that platform where even corporates can have their marketing done through a platform which is very potent.
No, because I mean, the main indication is that your national sport is now on the periphery.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody really pays that much attention to hockey, even though the talent is there. Nobody. We used to really like it. I mean, we used to really care about it in the 70s and the 80s and even the early 90s, but now it's really deteriorating. And hopefully it'll come up. I mean, people are trying very hard. So I was just thinking, if hockey is struggling so much, what chance does kabaddi or wrestling or volleyball have?
Yeah, I think, Ali, what we need to do is, and that's the path we are taking, is a multi-pronged approach. On one end, we are trying to promote and very tastefully design what we call the sports leagues. These are private sector-led events. On the other end, we are also trying to do the talent scouting. So I'm under no impression that these sports leagues will actually solve the problems overnight, be it hockey, be it kabaddi or any other sport. So you need to work on these things. The second thing is we have to understand the multiple stakeholders involved.
Okay.
It is, I think, very naive to give a one-liner that these stakeholders haven't performed. Our experience so far of dealing with federations, of dealing with the corporate has been very encouraging. And I think one of the important things is that we are trying to make some changes in the lives of these sportsmen right at the grassroots level. I think that's a step forward. You concentrate on players, you concentrate on their development, and all these people, including the corporates, would rally behind you.
Right, you can't leapfrog your way into
cannot.
things. You have to go step by step. I understand
Absolutely.
what you're saying. I think you're from what I gather, is that you're actively looking to engage the private sector, the corporate sector, but at the same time, you're not ignoring the federation.
Absolutely. Sports league, for them to be successful, it is absolutely important that you have a very immaculate relationship with the sports federations. In our case, the federation, the Kabaddi Federation, is the technical collaborator. So they are giving us the players pool. The departments that support them are also needs to be lauded. On the other end, the corporate sector. Again, the one-liner that I hear before entering into this particular field is that the corporate is not excited about anything other than cricket. Well, that's true to some degree, but at the same time, our interaction with them actually made us very clear that when you bring out a very powerful and a genuine story, we are at times looking at putting things in boxes.
Right.
Our interaction with corporate is that they're also a bunch of human beings like us. I mean, being fair, we have worked on the other side of the corporate for decades. And so when they hear the story, when they hear the stories of people like Mr. Chishti going from rags to riches, these are the stories that the corporate is interested in. And that is what we are trying to mainstream here.
Right, let's talk about kabaddi right now. You're setting up an event in March.
Yeah.
I understand, a kabaddi league in March. Now, I mean, tell us, how popular is kabaddi in the cities? That, I mean, it's not very popular, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But in the rural areas, is it still as popular as it used to be?
Yeah, Ali, I mean, kabaddi is such a great find for me on a personal level.
Tell us why.
I visited a few matches as well in the suburbs, and the atmosphere is just electric. And I think it would be an understatement to say the crowds would be anything above 30,000. And I was fascinated by the crowd and the atmosphere. And I asked the organizers, I mean, what kind of a PR and marketing, I use that corporate lingo, that you have done. And he was like that we have done only a few weeks of local cable TV channel sort of marketing, and that's about it. So it's extremely popular. It's a crowd puller. People understand that, people play that, and they love their players. So yeah, it is very relevant.
Right, so tell us about the response you've got so far. Has there been a little bit of hesitation, or have you mainly got positive responses?
It has been a mixed bunch, I must confess. I think there are organizations who would sit on the fence, who would look at how things shape up, but then there are those who would stick their neck out and put their money where their mouth is. So we are very lucky to have those partners with us, and the league is inshallah happening in March. We have got what you require in terms of putting things together, and so the response from the corporate sector has largely been very encouraging.
Right, now let's get specific here.
Yeah.
It's going to happen in Lahore.
It's going to happen in Lahore.
I understand.
Season 1.
So now, what are your plans to market it? It needs reach. You talked a little bit about marketing, but we need to be specific here, because that's something, let's face it, we're not very good at.
Yeah,
we're very bad at marketing our products. Like, we have to be honest.
Absolutely.
Without being honest, you're not going to improve.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do you intend on doing that?
See, we need to work on multiple levels. The plan is that in December, there is going to be the logo unveiling of the tournament itself, of the event itself. Along with that, we would also have the media partners with us, and then comes the team owners. Once the team owners are in place, we are going to have the draft day in January. The draft day would be done on similar basis as you are familiar with PSL and IPLs and Pro Kabaddi League, that there will be 6 teams named after the various cities of Pakistan.
6?
6.
Okay, all right.
And the players for all the rest of the year are actually working with various departments. But for this tournament, every year, they will get subsumed into these 6 teams. And people of Pakistan can actually rally behind the cities that they support.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the same way sort of India promote their kabaddi league, and one thing they're very good at, and we have to admit, is make these guys into heroes. It's not only their cricketers that are heroes, they're tennis players, they're kabaddi players, chess players. So, there's no problem in taking a leaf out of their book sometimes, because that's something that they do well.
Absolutely. We have our eyes on the best practices in the region and also on the globe. To give you a very pertinent example, that the National Championships of Kabaddi happened recently in Islamabad. And we went out and we attended all the matches with the players. Guess what? Their basic record keeping was something that we found that we need to work on. Now we have their great profile pictures, we have their stories, their records put all in one place, something that needed to be done. So it's taking those small steps, Ali, and taking it forward, and then we cannot also ignore the times we live in. Digital and social media has a lot of impact.
Crucial, absolutely crucial.
So we have a formal digital and social media campaign that we are going to kick off in December. And the idea is that at masses,
This December.
Okay. It's a crowd puller. But we also want to tap that particular bit of the society, if you would, that is not familiar with the game. And that starts with very commonsensical small steps. Like we are developing a small video in which people living in metropoles or who are not familiar with the game would be acquainted as to what are the rules of the game.
Just a couple of more questions before we end, because we're running out of time.
Yeah.
Where do you expect your company, Strawberry Sports Management, to be in the next 5 years? How much of an impact do you expect it to make, realistically?
Realistically, I think the response we got in the first year is beyond our own comprehension, because I think we received a lot of encouragement from all the stakeholders. In 5 years' time, we see ourselves as part of the Pakistan story. I would turn that around and say that I expect Pakistan to be having multiple sports leagues. I also expect Pakistan to have a much balanced narrative about sports, to say the least, that has more games stacked up.
Not just cricket, that's what you're trying to say.
Yeah. And the other thing, last but not the least, number of local players and legends being the heroes of our kids and our next generation. That is what I am looking at.
Now, this is probably the first question I should have asked you, but I'm just really curious. Why
Sure.
strawberry?
Yeah, actually, I think this is interesting. Thanks for asking that.
Yeah.
Actually, we were thinking of something which so strawberry is one of those few fruits that actually give you instant energy. If you look at tennis players and squash players, they would actually peel off a banana or would be chewing a strawberry. So that is one of the sports that gives instant energy to sportsmen. The other thing, if you notice, is it has its seeds outside it, which actually talks about, and that gives us that the relatability, that our story is not our story. Our story is not complete without spreading out what we know. It's the story of Pakistan.
Absolutely.
So that is what we thought that kind of reflects what we are trying to do, the mission that we are trying to
It's
do.
very, very clever, actually.
Thanks for that.
We have to leave it at that. Haider Ali, thank you very much for coming to the show and
Thank you so
speaking
much,
to us.
Ali.
I learned a lot, and I hope you keep coming on and talking to us.
Thank you so much. Ali.
Pleasure.
Pleasure having you.
That's all we have time for. Keep watching Sports Extra on PTV World. See you next time. Bye-bye.